We're here today for our status hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. Okay, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, and Jalissa Bird is my permanency specialist today.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Serena Burks, present and ready, Your Honor.
Stacey Zabala on behalf of Zach, here and ready.
All right, then. What do we have new since the court report was filed?
I don't have anything new. Zach's doing well. He's going to school. He states that he likes placement. I have not been able to get in touch with Ms. Burks. I believe the number that I have isn't the correct number. So I reached out to Mr. Jackson to see if he had a better number to contact her. So at this time, that's the only information I have.
Okay. Ms. Burks, I don't want you to give your phone number over YouTube. So is the number that Mr. Jackson has for you, is that a current and working number?
Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
I've reached out to Alexis so I can do visits with Zaquavion, and nobody has reached out to me to let me know how that's going.
Right, Ms. Burks, I was trying to reach out to you, and I believe you probably don't have my number, but after court, I could get with Joel to get the number, and then we can discuss about visits.
Okay.
Judge, if it's okay at the end of this hearing, if you could put Ms. Bird and my client and I in a breakout room, we'll have a quick discussion on that.
Sure, that'd be great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got service plans signed, filed, everything done?
Service plans have not been signed at this time, since I have not had contact at this time.
But they have been filed, Your Honor. They were filed on the 29th, Your Honor.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay. Then I'll let you all talk when we get done about trying to get that scheduled. So okay. Anything else to report? All right then, Mr. Jackson.
Well, I had a question to ask Ms. Bird, but I already know the answer. She doesn't have contact information for my client, so that satisfies that. I know that my client was, we'd had a discussion about potentially getting some therapeutic visits set up with this kiddo, if that would be possible. And Ms. Bird, I was going to ask you about that. Have y'all had any kind of discussion in that regard?
When I've talked to Zach, he did say that at this time he didn't want any visitation. I don't know if he's talked to Stacey recently and if that's changed, but I believe Stacey maybe can answer that a little bit better. But that's what he did state to me.
Okay. Do you know, to the best of your knowledge, whether he would be inclined to engage in any type of visitation with Ms. Burks?
I believe it can be a conversation that I can have with him. That's just the only information I have right now, but I can kind of go into depth more about therapeutic visitations and just kind of pick his brain a little bit of what he's wanting or if he's would be willing to.
Yes, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zabala?
So it has been just a few weeks since I've talked with Zaquavion. And so I'll revisit that question with him. He did tell me at that time that he wasn't looking at wanting to go back to live there, but I think he felt like that was kind of the feeling was mutual. I see no problem with going ahead and setting up family therapy kind of visits. And if Zach chooses to participate, great. If he doesn't, he could do that as well. I think with placement, it may take a little bit to get that set up. So I've got no issue with getting that started. I think it would be really important for him to have connections with his aunt and to try to, develop that, even if it's a situation where he doesn't end up going home to her, but develop as a supportive relationship. But I'll revisit that with him. I should be seeing him in person next week.
Okay. I think, that's all we can do right now is just start talking to him about it and seeing if we can't get interested or in the right frame of mind, to start that. So if we get there and he's willing, I have no problem with that. I think to start therapeutically is the best way to. So, if he comes around to the idea, then I'm good with it. All right, then, where is he actually placed, Ms. Vaughn?
Leveling.
And leveling. Okay. All right. So at least in region. Excuse me. All right, then today, let me talk with Ms. Burks for a minute about your service plan, Ms. Burks. I'm going to order that the service plan that's been filed is an order of the court. I certainly want you to have time to go over that with Ms. Bird and then talk to your attorney about it. Any questions that y'all may have or concerns,
Yes,
I'm happy to address, down the road if we want to do that, since you haven't gone over it. But it is now part of a court order. And so what that means is failure to work those services could result in the child not going home, and worst case scenario, it can result in termination of parental rights. So not saying those things to try to be intimidating. It's just that's the law, and I'm required to make sure you know it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I will continue his current placement. We can start therapeutic visits at such time that the child is, amenable to that. And I'll see everybody back, January 2nd of 2024, and that'll be
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, and Courtney Brown is my privacy specialist today.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Brittany Jacobson. Your Honor, I don't see my client on the screen this morning. Is she in the room?
No, she is not present, nor is she in the waiting room right now.
Thank you.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Lucas.
Okay. What do we have new, Ms. Brown?
Since the report was filed, Brittany did hair follicle for me. I believe she went on August 24th. That was submitted to the courts. It did come back negative. I'm still struggling with communication from Ms. Jacobson, and that's kind of been an ongoing issue since the final hearing that was set in May. And that's really the only update. She hasn't completed any services at this time.
Other than the drug testing?
Yes, she did do the OSAR initially. She did complete that. But other than that, and she's had, I believe, 2 or 3 virtual visits with Lucas, but all of those were prior to that hearing in May. Since then, she's kind of been out of pocket, and I haven't been able to reach her, so we haven't had any visits at this time.
Okay, let me ask you about his current placement. Are they long-term? Are they a legal risk home? Or?
They're a therapeutic foster home. I don't think it would be a long-term placement. They love Lucas. He's doing well there, but I think we would have to pursue a longer-term placement eventually.
All right. We've still not had any family come forward or express any interest.
Sadly, no.
Okay. How are Lucas's outbursts and things coming along? Are we making some headway?
We are. He actually had a visit with his grandparents here in Amarillo in early August, and he was here for about 10 days. When he was here, he had no outbursts, nothing like that, no night terrors, anything like that. Since he returned, I think Ms. Zavala and I were kind of worried about his behaviors once he went back to placement, because I know that was an issue back around Christmas when he came. But he's done really well since he's been placed back there this last time. Really no huge outbursts. The night terrors have kind of gone away as well. And I think, honestly, knowing that he might be able to see his grandparents again for a future visit has kind of helped calm him down a little bit with that. But he's doing well.
Good. Any other concerns for him other than we just keep working on all that?
No, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Zavala?
I think Courtney's laid out kind of how Lucas is doing. We were worried about that visit with grandparents, but it sounds like the visit went well, and then the after visit went well. So, it's my recommendation that placement continue. I do get the same sense that Courtney does. It's not a forever type placement.
Okay. All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'll continue Lucas's current placement. And we are set for our final on November 7th of 2023. Set on our adversary hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement and consent of the parties. We are live streaming and Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Cherie Hughes is my caseworker today, and Your Honor, we should have a announcement once everybody's done.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Naja Grimsley, present, ready, Your Honor.
And we lost Mr. Hill again. Hang on, he's obviously having trouble this morning.
Good morning, Judge. Sorry about that. My computer is not recognizing my camera. I'm here on behalf of the father. Ready.
All right.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Gabrielle.
All right, thank you all. All right, Mr. Trout.
Yes, Your Honor. After speaking with everybody, we would announce that we have an agreement on this case. As far as the adversary hearing, that the parents would agree to TMC to the department and would agree to work services throughout the case and cooperate with the department at that time.
Where is child placed right now?
Child's at a RTC, I believe it's in Houston.
Yes, sir.
In Houston.
In the Houston area? Okay. So with respect to any kind of visitation, we're going to be working with placement, obviously, on therapeutic, probably initially therapeutic visits and working with the child's individual therapist. So, okay. And just did you say no child support or medical support?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Since obviously, let's see, Mr. Hill, your client is incarcerated, and then Ms. Grimsley, I want you to be able to use your resources if we get to the point where you might have to travel to have in-person visits with the child. So I find that it's in the best interest right now not to order any kind of child support or medical support.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Ms. Zavala, or so Mr. Jackson, is this your agreement?
Yes, ma'am. My client, we've had a discussion. She's more than willing to work the services that's asked of her. The thing that she had asked that she wants to make clear to the court is that she's wanting Gabby, the child, to get all the help that she can get while she's at where she's at. And my client does not want her rights terminated. She wants to keep her rights intact. And she'd asked me to make that clear with the court.
All right, and I understand. You know, this is a little bit of a different situation than a lot of our cases. So, you know, that's the goal, is to work with the child and try to get the child in a better place, and then work with the family. So, Mr. Hill, is this you and your client's agreement?
It is, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, I was able to Zoom with Gabrielle, so I actually got to see her and talk to her. I do believe this agreement is in her best interest, and I know that they're getting her set up with everything that she needs there.
All right, then at this time, I do find that the evidence is sufficient to name the Department of Family and Protective Services as temporary managing conservator based on the ongoing and continuing danger to the child remain in the home under the circumstances that as they exist with the child's very aggressive behaviors and self-harming behaviors.
Your Honor, if I may real quick, depending on if Mr. Grimsley is able to bond out or gets out at any time, there is bond conditions that he have no contact with the victim or any child under 17. So we would add, you know, as far as visits on this with the dad, postpone those until any further notice on this other situation.
Okay, sure. We can't override that
Yes,
bond if there's a bond condition, obviously. So, anyway, our next hearing will be our status hearing, and that's scheduled for October 17th of 2023. That's on a 9:00 docket. So Ms. Grimsley, just stay in touch with your attorney. He'll be sure to let you know what time you need to log back in. And you know, you may just be doing what you're doing today, maybe at his office. So I'll see you back then. We'll talk more about your service plan at that time. Between now and then, the department and St. Francis, they're going to sit down with you and you're going to develop what we call a service plan, just the things that we kind of need you to do to participate in, and you certainly can get started on those things before the next hearing. You don't have to wait until then to get started on them. So
Yes, ma'am. As soon as they let me know, we're supposed to be setting up phone visits or Zoom visits so I can see Abby as well.
Okay.
I just need to know what I need to be doing and where I need to go to do them, and I'm good.
yeah, that'll be the focus. That's kind of the next step. And so they'll be sitting down with you to go through all of that. All right. Well, I appreciate your all's cooperation today. And Mr. Hill, thank you for visiting with your client and reaching the agreement. So I'll see everybody back then October 17th. Versus
Thank you.
Autumn Jewett and Trevor Enlow. We're here on a request for court-ordered services. And we are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement and consent of the parties. We are also live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is also making our record this morning. Okay. We'll go ahead and take everybody's announcements.
Todd Alvey on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm present, ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Ben Snowak on behalf of Autumn Jewett.
Your Honor, I'm Tate Eldridge. I represent the father, Trevor Enlow.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the child.
All right. Mr. Albee, how many witnesses you have today?
And Miss Iniga will be the only witness I have unless Mr. Lewis appears, Your Honor. Thank you. Miss Iniga, you are a investigator working for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Yes.
How old is Summer?
Summer is 3 years old.
And who are her parents?
Her parents are Autumn Jewett and Trevor Enlow.
And how did you become involved in this family?
We received a report that came in with some concerns, and it was assigned to me.
What were those concerns?
The concerns came in about possible methamphetamine use and that mother was prostituting.
And when did that first report arrive to you?
It came in on July 14th.
And what did you do to begin your investigation?
I tried making contact with the parents.
All right. Did you find where they lived?
I did end up finding where they lived. Yes.
And where do you believe they currently reside?
They reside at.
Have you found the parents and Summer at that location?
I have.
And when was the last time that you had contact with them at that location?
The last time I actually had contact with them was 8/24 of 23.
And had you had numerous times when you made contact with the family at that location?
Just twice myself.
When was the last time that you had contact with either Autumn Jewett or Trevor Enlow about this investigation?
That would be 8/24/23.
And did you advise them that we were having court today?
I did.
Did you provide them with the Zoom information so that they could participate in court today?
Not that day. No. They said they had their attorneys and they knew about the case and were going to meet with them.
Have you discussed the allegations in your original report from July the 14th with Miss Jewett and Mr. Enlow?
Yes, I have.
First of all, tell me what Miss Jewett's responses to the allegations of meth use and prostitution are.
She denied both allegations.
And when you talked to Mr. Enlow, what was his thoughts when you discussed those two allegations with him?
He denied as well.
Now, have you investigated whether or not Miss Jewett is actively acting as a prostitute in the city of Amarillo?
I was able to find an escort page where she is advertising her
Objection,
services.
Judge, hearsay. Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. A web page is hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you investigate the internet for Miss Jewett's signature or anything like that?
I did.
Okay. And without telling me what you found on that or what it said on that page, did you find social media listings with Miss Jewett?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
That's not hearsay, Your Honor.
If you see it on the internet, it's hearsay.
I'm going to overrule the objection. She just saying she found it out there, but
Now, After
She might have seen her under the Nobel Peace Prize winning webpage, you know?
And that
Doesn't
was,
necessarily have any negative, doesn't have a negative connotation, just that she found her out on social media. So
it's an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, Judge. It is hearsay, but I understand your ruling.
Now, Ms. Iniga, have you observed anything unusual going on at the apartment where Ms. Jewett and Mr. Enlow reside?
I have.
Okay. Tell me what you have observed.
I have observed through videotape at the apartments, the parents and child up all through the night, walking around with their child during nighttime, walking back and forth to a store on surveillance camera. I have observed the child being outside unsupervised for up to 30 minutes at a time, and one morning, an hour at a time with some strange man, but no parents were seen as she ran around the main courtyard in the middle of the apartments. I have observed numerous people going back and forth to the apartments on the surveillance camera through the night. When I was personally at the apartments myself, I had numerous tenants and staff come to me with concerns.
Objection, hearsay, Judge.
They had.
Yeah. Don't tell me what anybody told you.
Okay.
Now, in addition to your observations of the child being left alone for lengthy periods of time, and traffic that you've talked about, have you talked with the property manager for the apartment complex?
I have.
And what's his name?
His name is Joshua Lewis.
And have you talked with numerous other collaterals? It's your responsibility to talk.
Yes, I have.
When you talked with Ms. Jewett and Mr. Enlow about working services, did they cooperate with you in possibility of working services?
No, they have not cooperated with me at all.
And have you advised them that you wanted them to work services?
I have advised them.
And have you talked with them about taking any drug screens so that we can eliminate the concerns of drug use?
I have asked that numerous times, yes.
And have they cooperated with taking a drug screen for you?
No, they have not.
Have they scheduled any drug screens and then just not showed, or they just have told you they're not going to take any drug screens?
They did make comment to me in a roundabout way that they would be willing to take a drug screen. But then when I ask when they would go or give them a day to go, then they end up saying something else, whether they're going to wait for court or something else, and then don't go.
Have they ever advised you that they wanted a court orders before they worked any services and or drug screen?
I don't believe they've asked me for those, but they knew that court was coming up, which would ask them to do it, and they knew about that.
Today, are you asking this court to order that Ms. Jewett and Mr. Enlow work services?
Yes.
Are you requesting that Ms. Jewett and Mr. Enlow do a parenting class, some
Yes.
counseling, an OSAR evaluation, and random drug screens?
Yes.
Are you asking them to complete an FBS assessment to determine if there are any additional services that may need to be required?
I believe so. Yes.
Based upon your observations of Ms. Jewett and Mr. Enlow, do you feel like there is a need for these services to protect Summer from neglect and abuse?
Absolutely.
At the minimum, they need to do some parenting classes so that they can learn how to supervise their child.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Let me just ask you a quick question. You referred to a strange man was with the child. Was this something you saw personally, or is this something you saw on video? I assume probably the apartment or motel's videos?
I saw this on the apartment security camera. Yes.
Well, did he just wander onto the property? I mean, or do you know that do you know that he was a stranger to the child?
He came out from the apartment, and the let's see here, the courtesy officer that works at the apartment was able to get a look at him.
Objection, hearsay on anything the
Okay.
courtesy officer said.
Yeah, and I'll sustain the objection. Okay. Can't tell me what he said but all right. His identity was not known to you.
Correct.
But do you know whether or not he was a stranger to the child?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Nowak.
Thank you, Judge. And that was going to be my first line of question. And Miss, if I pronounce your last name incorrectly, please just slap me through the screen. Is it Eniga?
Yeah, in Inga.
Thank you, ma'am. So just to follow up, you don't know if that person was a stranger to the parents, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if that person was a stranger to the child, correct?
Correct.
In fact, if you saw me on a videotape with one of my grandkids, you could identify me as a stranger, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any evidence that Autumn Jewett is currently using meth?
Not personally.
Do you have any personal knowledge or any admissible knowledge that she is prostituting herself?
Not personally.
When you observed the child's name is Summer?
Yes.
When you observed Summer, did you see Summer in person or just on videotape?
I saw Summer in person through a crack in the door.
Okay. And then you saw her as well on video, correct?
Yes.
Based on your observation, Summer appears to be well fed, correct?
I don't have enough knowledge to know one way or the other.
Did she look malnourished to you?
I couldn't see her well enough on either to
Was
really
she-
know.
Was she appropriately clothed?
Again, I believe when I saw her in person that she appeared to have appropriate clothing on. I couldn't tell enough. I'm assuming, and she was dressed in the videotape.
Okay, let me interrupt. I've just brought Mr. Lewis into our proceeding. Mr. Abbey, this is a witness of yours, is that correct?
It is, Your Honor.
Okay. Is anybody invoking the rule?
I'll invoke the rule, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, this is Judge Baker. Thank you for joining us. The rule of witnesses has been invoked. I will have to place you in the waiting room until it is your time to testify. So I'm going to place you back in there. Can you unmute and just make sure that you can hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, so you'll just be in this virtual waiting room, and then if you'll stay logged in, I'll bring you in as soon as they're ready for you to testify, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, shouldn't be too long, I don't think.
Now I'm going to embarrass myself probably by mispronouncing your name that you just told me how to pronounce 5 minutes ago. Ms. Inenga.
That's fine.
Thank you. Did you see any evidence that Summer was being neglected?
I could not tell that.
Did you see any evidence that Summer was being abused?
I could not tell that. Now, through the video, the surveillance camera, I did witness her being unsupervised by her parents. At times, no adult around. To me, that is neglectful, though.
Okay. What's the frame on that video camera? I mean, is it possible that there was a parent or an adult that they trusted outside of the range of the camera with the child?
It showed a very large range. I was able to see the child around the front of their residence, as well as the whole center, the sidewalks that shared. Now, if somebody was standing inside the doorway, I wouldn't have been able to see that.
You said that the child was left alone for long periods of time. You're basing that upon what you watched in the video, correct?
Yes.
And if someone was off screen, then the child would not have been left alone, correct?
They would have been at far distance, but yes.
Okay. Is the apartment complex where Autumn Jewett lives, is it appropriate for a family?
It matters who you're asking is appropriate. There is a lot of trouble and drug use and stuff like that throughout that apartment complex due to police officers that have told me, as well as apartment manager.
It's fair to say that about most of Amarillo today, unfortunately, correct?
I guess.
Okay. I just want to be crystal clear because we're dealing with parents of a 3-year-old. And I want to be clear in my mind. You don't have any, other than perhaps a child be left unsupervised for a certain amount of time, you don't have any evidence of actual abuse or neglect, correct?
I don't, but we have more to go on than just the present time. We also have history with the family and concerns and positive drug screens not too far off in the past that also raises our concerns.
That's fair. That's fair. But for this anonymous report, we wouldn't be here today, correct?
I suppose.
Okay. What did you do to test the veracity of whoever made this report?
There was no way of knowing who made the report. They had details of the motel room, some details about mom. But other than that, I don't know.
When you say details, I'm looking at what was attached to the petition.
Sure.
And I only see one paragraph, and it says, "Dear sir, madam, I'm writing you about mother. I'm concerned for child. I've witnessed mother using methamphetamines. Mother is a prostitute. Mother advertised on a website called Skip the Games. Mother is under Cali Girl with a phone number." I'm not going to read the phone number. "Mother has begged me for money, stating mother and child are starving. I'm concerned for the child's safety. Thank you." Was that the entirety of the anonymous report you received?
Yes, but we also did receive a second report as well.
Are you willing to provide? I'm sorry, I apologize. Are you
No,
willing
that's
to?
okay.
Do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Is there a way that you can email that to me when we're finished?
Oh, the second report, sure.
Okay.
The information.
And is the second report, because you mentioned a moment ago that the reporter knew about details of the apartment. Is that what your testimony was coming from?
Yes, the second report.
How long is the second report? Is it more than a paragraph?
No, not necessarily.
Just go ahead and read it if you would.
Well, I can't give, let's see. It talks about how there's personal witness to selling drugs, opiates and fentanyl out of the apartment. Talks about the child's summer. It talks about personal witness of high amounts of drug users walking to the apartment, begging money throughout the apartment for drugs. The parents have been found passed out in the common areas of the apartment and witnessed that the mother actually has admitted to someone about selling and using fentanyl, having an addiction. It's also about the prostitution and services to other residents, and someone knows personally about that. They attach the escort page. And there's just some other little details like that about the escort page. And that's the meat of it.
Thank you. And I know you can't reveal the reporter's name, but do you know who wrote those letters to you or to the department?
That made that report, yes.
Okay. And have you interviewed that person?
Yes.
Okay. More than once?
He has been interviewed more than once by me and once by another investigator because I was out on leave.
Are you willing to share, redacting the reporter's name, are you willing to share those interviews with me?
As long as I have permission by my supervisor or whoever.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And Judge, sure. I'm going to pass the witness.
Mr. Eldridge?
I don't have any questions, John.
Ms. Zaval?
Ms. Iniga, I'm trying to get a handle on kind of the history. Summer is 3, is that correct?
Yes.
And it looks like, based on the report, that there have been ongoing investigations from April 2020 to October 2020. Was that a family-based case?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so prior to that, there was an investigation from February 2020 to April 2020, and then that led into the family-based case?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Were you involved in that investigation?
I was not.
What was the disposition of that investigation?
It was reason to believe.
So that would have been when Summer was an infant?
Yes.
And then it looks like there was another investigation from April of 22 to September of 22?
Correct.
which also, well, what was the disposition of that investigation?
That was a reason to believe as well, and went into an FBSS case.
Okay. Were you involved in that investigation?
I was not.
And so then FBSS was started again, and it looks like it ran from August to February of 2023.
Yes,
And were services successfully completed that time?
no, they did not complete any services and they were non-compliant with the department.
Why was a removal not done at that time?
Because they had placed their child, I believe, with a grandparent. And when my case came in, the grandparent said that the parents went, after we closed the investigation, went and picked up the child, and she just gave it to them.
So for the vast majority of Summer's life, there has been an open either investigation or family-based safety services case.
Yes, with active drug use. Admitted by the parents.
So, and I apologize if you've already covered this. Were you able to speak to the parents enough this time to request them to drug screen?
I was able to request them to drug screen.
And what was the response there?
It's hard for me to give a straight answer because mother tends to talk kind of in circles. So she would say that they were willing to drug screen to my supervisor and to court, is what she said, her attorney. But then when you ask her to do it, she won't go do it. And then she'll come back around and say, well, we said we're willing. I said, well, will you go then? You haven't gone yet. And she would say again, come up with something and say, but we're willing, but she won't go. And that's kind of how it's been through any of my communication with her. She won't directly answer the questions, but she won't cooperate with us.
And as recently as about a year ago, there was an admission of methamphetamine used by both parents.
Yes, there was positive drug screens and admission by both parents.
And based on the results of the family-based case that closed out in February, there's no indication that the concerns regarding that drug use have been addressed.
Correct.
And you haven't been able to actually get in to see Summer or to other than through a crack in the door?
Correct.
When you communicated with parents and asked about seeing Summer, what was their response?
State that again.
When you communicated with parents and asked them about seeing Summer, what was their response?
They don't have to let me see Summer, is what they tell me. The dad initially, the first time, let me see Summer through a crack in the door, and that was to the extent, and then he pushed her aside with his leg and stood there. So it was for a few seconds.
I pass witness.
Mr. Abbey?
Just to be clear, Lisa, Miss Jewett didn't admit to drug use this time around, but she has admitted to drug use in the past.
Correct.
And when we ask her to go drug screen, she says she will, but she won't.
Correct.
And you've observed this child left outside their apartment without supervision for, at one point in time, for an hour, and one point in time for more than 30 minutes.
The child was out there for an hour with this one gentleman, this one man, for 30 minutes, and then he disappeared back in the apartment, is what it looked like. And she was out there alone, running up and down sidewalks and playing in the center without any adults close to her at all.
And Miss Jewett and Mr. Enlow won't cooperate with you enough so that you can even ask if that person was someone that child knew.
No.
Pass witness.
Mr. Novak?
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Eldridge, anything?
No, nothing further on.
All right, and Ms. Zavala?
No further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, then. Okay, Mr. Abbey, your next witness.
I would call Mr. Lewis, Your Honor. Mr. Lewis, How are you employed?
I am the apartment manager,
For what apartments?
106. That's act.
As the apartment manager at that apartment complex, do you know Autumn Jewett and Trevor Enlow?
Yes, sir, I do.
How long have they been tenants at the apartment complex?
Unofficially since around February.
And have you ever observed Miss Jewett soliciting sex as a prostitute?
Yes, sir, I have.
Have you ever observed Miss Jewett or Mr. Enlow, excuse me, attempt to solicit someone to buy illegal substances?
I have not witnessed them attempt to sell. I have seen them buy.
And what substances do you believe that they have bought?
Well, she told me that she is addicted to fentanyl.
She told you that?
She did.
Has Mr. Enlow ever told you that?
He has told me that he has remained sober since last year.
Do they still reside in the same apartment today?
They do, but they have eviction on September the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I'll pass witness.
All right, Mr. Novak,
No questions, Judge.
Mr. Eldridge,
No question, Your Honor.
and Ms. Zavala.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Albee, you have any other questions for Mr. Lewis?
I do not, Your Honor. May he be excused, please?
Any objection, counsel?
No objection.
No objection?
No objection.
All right, Mr. Lewis, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate your time this morning. You are free to go at this time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Albee, any further witnesses?
I have no further witnesses, Your Honor. I rest.
All right, then, Mr. Novak, anything to present today?
Nothing today, Your Honor. I rest.
All right, Mr. Eldridge.
I don't have anything, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Zavala.
Nothing to present, Your Honor.
All right, do you have a recommendation today?
Yes, Your Honor. It is my recommendation that the family be ordered to participate in services. I have not been able to make contact with the family. I do worry if there's an eviction coming up that we may lose their location, so I hope we could get an order to them very quickly. But I do think it would be in the child's best interest.
All right, then, based upon the evidence I've heard today, I do find it is in the best interest of the child to order the family to participate in the requested services. Find the evidence is sufficient to render this order. Based on concerns of drug use, past history of the parents, and the unsuccessful past history of parents with the department and FBSS. So I will grant the order, and all requested services as are outlined in the department's petition. I'll see everybody back for a compliance hearing on November 14th of 2023. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Nowak, are you in contact with your clients? And I ask solely because my concern is the eviction. I want to make sure we don't completely lose contact with the family. That if y'all got some working phone numbers.
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay. All right.
I don't, Your Honor. I've got an address, no phone number. I've never heard from my guy. He's never called. We've sent letters to him, but no response or anything.
Okay. Maybe you and Mr. Nowak can share some information. I don't know. It appears parents are together and are living together. So.
Sounds like it.
Okay. Yeah.
Tate,
Okay.
I'll shoot your guy's phone number, Tate.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, and if parents will drug screen for us and alleviate, obviously, some of those obvious concerns, then, this could be short-lived. So, okay, I appreciate it. I'll see everybody back November 14th.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, is Mr. Carnes there in the same household with you?
No.
Okay. Mr. Carnes, you might try to log out and just log back in. sometimes that's the magic fix. I don't know why, but it sometimes is. So if you want to just, or I can remove you and then just try to log back in. Well, I guess, Mr. Alley, what are we doing today?
Judge, we're asking that you vacate today's hearing. There's been additional events that have occurred. I'm not aware of all of those at this point in time, but it would be something that may need to be evaluated further by other counsel. So we're asking that you vacate today's hearing. If additional efforts are made, we may be asking that this case be dismissed.
All right, so just vacate the hearing. Do you want a reset date?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay.
I really
I'd probably
anticipate.
be more comfortable if we had something on the calendar.
Okay. I understand that. And we can
Yeah.
dismiss at that point in time and you can vacate that hearing. But if you want to reset it, I would ask that you do it on the 14th. We set one other case already on that day.
So attorneys, could everybody possibly, if it comes to that, return for this hearing on September 14th on a 9 o'clock docket?
It works for me.
I can do that.
Judge, I only heard 9 o'clock docket. It would cut out before that.
September 14th.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mr. Carnes, are you hearing us? Okay. All right, then we'll just vacate today and we will reset this for September 14th on a 9 o'clock docket. Obviously, when the docket will go out and a week ahead of time and let y'all know what time slot you'll be on. Okay, I appreciate everybody showing up this morning. Everybody have a good rest of your day. Set on our final.
Thank you,
We
Judge.
are
And if you
conducting
would
this
put
through
me-
Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement and consent of the parties. We are live streaming and Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take everybody's announcements.
Daniel Trow for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
General for the mother, Alyssa Hanson. We're both present and ready.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Yes, Jeff Hill on behalf of the father. He's present. We're ready, Your Honor.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Bernie.
All right, thank you. Call your first witness.
Call Stephanie Corbett, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
For what the department's or St. Francis Department's asking for today, are you asking for a monitored return
Yes, sir.
to the mother?
Yes, sir.
And in that monitored return, that would give a little more time to work with the mother and the child.
Correct.
So are there issues that we need to still address in the case as far as the child? Is there any behaviors going on or any issues that we are still looking at with the child?
So since the child has been returned, he has examined, I've examined some behaviors. He has begun hitting, some anger outbursts. He hits his head. He gets upset, hits mom, so we were thinking of maybe looking into some behavioral therapy for the child.
What type of therapies or counseling is he doing right now?
He gets speech and occupational through the school, and he's getting physical through Turn Center.
Okay. What type of therapy would you be looking at if the monitored return would be granted today?
Well, I was going to get with the school and see what else they could offer to help maybe, and if not, then some type of behavioral therapy. Another behavior he did, I'm sorry, I forgot. He bit a teacher at the daycare, which that's something he's never done before.
And are these new behaviors since being placed back with mom at the end of June?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you kind of hesitate on that. So
I'm sorry. I was thinking, he did somewhat like would hit his head in the foster home, but not to the extreme he is now, not where he would cause harm to himself.
Okay. So since being placed, the behaviors have just increased a little bit since.
Yes. And the biting, something new.
Okay. And this may be due to some of it's his medical diagnosis. And we believe it has something to do with he's very sensitive to sounds, noises.
Yes.
Sensory
overload, yeah.
Okay. Are there any issues with mom as to why we are asking for it, as far as, is mom stable in where she's living, job, finances?
I think mom just needs a little more help, financially, if there's anything else we could do. We've helped her with rent, groceries, that sort of thing. She's got a few applications in for different things that she's just waiting on. So, would feel that she would still need our resources until she can get those.
Okay. Mom's working right now, correct?
Yes,
And she's, to your understanding, is it a part-time job or a full-time job?
full-time.
Okay. Do you know how many hours a week she works?
No, I know she took some Mondays off, but she said she started working again on Mondays, so I'm assuming between 30 and 40 a week.
Okay. But you're assuming that, you're not sure if that's right, right?
Not 100%, no. So.
Okay. Has mom applied for any assistance programs?
Yes, she has applied for SSI, for Remy. She's applied for TAMP cash help. She's applied for food stamps, and I recently, she applied for child support.
But to your knowledge, we've not gotten answers on any of those applications at this point.
No, sorry.
So for right now, to your knowledge, the only financial support mom is getting is with her job, whether that's full-time or part-time, and we'll talk to her in a minute on that. On full-time or part-time, what St. Francis helps her with, and if dad is sending any support.
Yes, and she does get some through family. Like her mother pays her car insurance and.
So do you believe right now, as far as monitored return, it'd be in the best interest of the child and the child's stability to stay in the case for a little longer and help with mom, and to see if the child needs any other therapies?
Yes.
Are you, to your knowledge, does dad help out with finances at this time?
He has, since the child's gone home, yes.
Is that to your knowledge, is that a?
Sorry, Daniel, I got kicked out and just got back in. The last thing I heard was like her mother pays her car insurance, and you said, okay. Then y'all were gone.
To your knowledge, as far as what dad has been sending since the child has been home, is that on a regular basis or just as needed? Are you aware of how their arrangements work?
Dad sent me and Alyssa sent me, pictures of what was sent. It's just kind of, I guess, on an as need. Alyssa was struggling, between switching jobs, not having a paycheck, and got behind, and Richard had sent some money.
As far as finances, how often is St. Francis helping right now, or have we not helped in a little while since she's gotten a little more?
We just paid her rent this one time and got some groceries for her.
Okay, and that was at the beginning, so end of June, July?
No, the rent was just paid for August. We paid that.
Okay. Do you know, since it's now 1st of September, do you know, is mom able to make rent on her own? Has she mentioned anything to you?
Yes, she should be able to get that now. It was just, she didn't have a paycheck and needed some help there.
Okay. And when you said didn't have a paycheck, that's alluding to I think it was 3 weeks that she was not drawing the paycheck when she changed jobs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If the court decides today that monitored return is not in the best interest, would we be asking also for child support from dad to be ordered?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your
All right. Ms. Rondo?
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Corbett, is it fair to say that because the child is autistic, he normally struggles with behaviors?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's nonverbal, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when the department was helping Miss Hanson financially, it was because she didn't have employment for a period of time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when exactly did the department provide money for the groceries?
For the groceries, I don't have that exact date in front of me. It was, I would guess, about 3-4 weeks ago.
Is it fair to
provide money? We went and got groceries, and I gave them to her.
Is it fair to say that the department's kind of only helped her financially one time so far?
I believe we've helped her with rent once before I came into this case, and then we've helped her with rent since I've been in the case.
Okay, so effectively maybe twice.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, and Mr. Hill?
Do you have any idea what the level of support is that Mr. Chambers has sent to Ms. Hanson over the course of this or even recently?
From what Mr. Chambers screenshotted me, and it was within June and July, it was roughly around $900.
Okay, and that's June, July of this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know what the circumstances were when you had to pay her rent recently? Was she between jobs? Had she moved?
She switched jobs and didn't have a paycheck for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because when she switched, they held her back a paycheck. So
Sure. Okay, but she's now got a job that appears to be working for her.
yes, sir.
And the apartment she's living in, does it seem to be appropriate for her and Remy?
Yes, we're trying to help Alyssa with talking to her landlord because her air conditioner hasn't been working for about 3-4 weeks now.
Ouch. Okay, that's not fun.
She has a window unit and some fans, and I know her landlords came out, but it hasn't been fixed yet.
Okay. Other than that, though, the apartment seems appropriate?
Yes.
Did the landlord at least appear on the surface that he's concerned and working towards
Yes.
fixing the problem?
Yes, he gave her a window unit to help out, which does cool the bedrooms. And if she opens the door and with the fans, it works.
Any idea on the government assistance that she's applied for, when that might come through?
No, sir.
Have you been in the loop at all, assisting her to apply for that?
No. I sent her a link. She applied for it. They asked for something. She uploaded it, and that's the last I've heard about it. So
my understanding, and you may or may not know this, my understanding is that she's been trying for several months to try and get that going. Is that your understanding as well?
yes, sir.
Do you have any idea how long that usually takes to get that assistance?
No, I know you get denied usually the first time for SSI, and then I advised Miss Hanson to what do you call it? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. When you send a whatever, so they'd relook at it. I'm sorry, I can't think of
An
the word.
appeal?
Yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't get that word out. Yes. And she's done that. So that's where we are so far.
Does she receive any rent assistance?
No, I have told her she could apply for HUD. From what I understand, they have a pretty long wait list as of right now. So.
Okay. Do you know, does it appear that she would be eligible for that assistance?
I believe she would. I'm not real familiar with what all they look at, but.
Okay, now let me shift your attention back over to Mr. Chambers. My understanding is that he has completed everything on the service plan that he was asked to do. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. If the judge finalizes the case today, are you asking for any restrictions on his visitation or his parental rights?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Hill, I don't see that I've adjudicated him as a father and that he, I think, is an alleged father. And y'all jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it his desire to be adjudicated as the father? He hadn't asked for genetic testing, I don't think.
Judge, if he hasn't been, it's absolutely his intention to be adjudicated as the father. He fully believes that this child is his.
Okay, because I don't think we ever did any genetic testing, and I don't have any notes about it, and I don't have any. I'm not seeing that I have adjudicated him at any point in time. It may just be that the issues just never come up. So, okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Zavala.
Ms. Corbett, Remy was placed back into the home on the very last day of June, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, he's been there right at 2 months now.
Yes, ma'am.
Remy is autistic, nonverbal.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it really important to him to have a stable schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it really important because of the fact that he is nonverbal and autistic that we make sure those therapies that have been started for him?
Yes, ma'am.
And quite a lot of it has been, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Alyssa's cooperating and getting that done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But we still need something to address those behaviors that have changed for him since he moved to mom's home.
Yes.
Okay. And we're not saying that those behaviors are the fault of mom.
No, no.
Right. We just need to make sure that we've got something set up so that we can work through what we can do to alleviate that for Remy.
Yes.
And part of that is just making sure that the schedule continues and that he's got great stability, right?
Yes.
So he's been there 2 months, and mom's working hard at everything he needs, including getting a better paying job, I understand, at Brahms.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But in those 2 months, she has needed financial assistance. She's needed her rent paid once and some groceries.
Yes, ma'am.
And she's needed assistance from Mr. Chambers.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it very important to Remy's stability that we make sure that those financial issues are addressed before we pull away from this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said that you've been working with her landlord to try to help the air conditioning situation?
Well, I mean, I haven't spoke to the landlord, but I've spoke with Alyssa and she's told me he's come out, or they have come out and tried to fix it.
Okay.
They've done several things and it just seems like they would fix one thing and another thing would happen. And
so this request for a monitored return, it's not because mom is doing anything wrong. It's just that we've got a few more things to get in place for her.
yes.
And for Remy.
Yes.
Normally, the department will monitor for at least 90 days for a child, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in this case, we've just got 2 months.
Yes.
And in this case, we've got a nonverbal child with extra needs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would it be especially important that not only we do the regular kind of 90 days, but maybe some additional until all of those services are in place for Remy?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if we did a monitored return today, that doesn't mean we need to keep the case going all the way till January or February, but it gives us the time to make sure that he's got what he needs to be stable.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I think this may be a question to address with mom, but I think you said that mom had tried to open a child support case or went to the attorney general to open a child support case.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that we could order child support in this actual court?
Yes, ma'am.
And that actually that would be the much faster way to do it than going through the attorney general in a separate case.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Alyssa need additional medical records for Remy for this SSI appeal?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Does she have a full copy of all of his records since he's been in care?
I believe so. I've given her everything I could. And I know she had to get shot records from Oregon. So she has those and that's how she got them in school. He was missing 2 shots. He got those. I believe she has everything she needs.
Okay. I pass witness.
Ms. Corbett, what exactly is it that either you or someone with St. Francis or the department, what exactly is it that we can do to assist mom for the next few months? I mean, what are our people going to actively be doing?
I can help her with the HUD process application, get that started if she wants to do that. We were going to see if the school or can provide some type of behavioral therapy. If not, if I need to find a behavioral therapist, maybe for Remy, just, so we can see what he needs for those new behaviors.
And where is he at school?
He goes, it's in.
Is he actually enrolled in something through the Canyon Independent School District?
Yes, it's a special education, like kind of like an early head start, but for children with mental.
He's in a program through the Independent School District that's designed for a child with either an intellectual or physical disability.
Yes, ma'am.
And will that put him on track when he actually starts kindergarten and first grade to be in those special education programs that would deal specifically with autism or other disabilities?
Yes, sir.
So that's handled as far as educationally, he's on track to be where he needs to be.
Yes, sir.
Medically, is there anything else that we can provide Mom? I mean, as far as his ongoing care and treatment, you've mentioned a behavioral therapist. Okay.
No, not medically. I think everything's been handled medically.
He's got a primary care physician.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Once if he leaves care, then we're back to Medicaid, correct?
Yes.
I was looking at an organization here, Amarillo ABA, which Ms. Hanson, you're nodding, you're familiar with it. Okay, but it looks like they don't accept Medicaid. So at your job, do you have any, or are you going to have any kind of private insurance?
I have to be an employee for 90 days in order to qualify, and I'm almost there at the 90-day mark. I think by the end of October, I will have been there 90 days.
Where are you working?
Browns and Canyon.
Do you know who that health insurance is through?
I don't, but from what I hear from other employees, it's a pretty good health insurance, and Browns takes really good care of their employees.
All right, Mr. Chambers, do you have any health insurance, private health insurance through work?
Not through work. I'm on the Oregon Health Plan.
Okay.
So state provided. I'm also Native, so I get some assistance through the local Native tribe.
Okay, what tribe are you a member of, and do we know about that?
Yeah. Remy and I are Cherokee. We're from Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation. So just right over across the street from Texas.
Mm-hmm. Very familiar with it. Grew up in Tulsa.
Fantastic.
Okay. So that's one question. So Mr. Chambers, if you're wanting to be adjudicated as the father, I can also set child support. Do you know, does your state insurance, I mean, the problem is with it being in Oregon, I'm not sure how much help that gives us with a child here in Texas.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't think that they would provide if he's out of state, honestly. But I mean, yeah, it'd be the same as if, like I'm assuming he's on a health plan there through the same kind of assistance through the state.
Well, he's on a plan through the department right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, the reason why I'm on the state health plan is because my jobs I never get enough hours. I work part-time jobs. So they most of the time only allow it for full-time employees, what I understand. But I've just got renewed and I got like full coverage for myself through the state right now through next year.
Right, and we'll come back to this as far as your job and how much you make and all that kind of stuff. But Ms. Smith, I don't know that you've got any, insight. Is there anything that you can think of that through Superior that we could provide?
Yes, Your Honor. I was about to text or send out a message. We don't have a good phone number for Ms. Hanson, but I see someone has tried to reach out, but it went to a business. If I could get a good number for her, someone could reach out to her. But I would suggest private therapy in addition to therapies he gets at school for someone that's with that diagnosis, just to, help him better function. And we could get that, help her get those referrals and get that set up. We do cover ABA therapy. I'm not sure if we cover that particular provider, but there's certain procedures and protocols that you have to put in place. He has to have a psychological within a certain time frame that diagnoses him with that. But the person that reaches out to her can help her get all that set up if she's interested in that.
Okay. And and I'm not going to cut anybody off. I'm going to let you all have your time. But I mean, folks, I'm just trying to figure out, is there something that we can still really do? Is there something we can really still help Ms. Hanson, with getting Remy in? I mean, we're trying to really get him on course and on track with this because, Ms. Hanson, it's a difficult situation. And, some of these outfits help with, communication devices and help with, speech therapy. And I mean, it can be pretty intensive stuff that you're unlikely to get through school is all I'm saying, just because of time limitations and, they've got other kids in the classroom. And so that's really what I'm trying to find out. Is there something else that we really can try to offer to you?
I've spoken with Care Options for Kids. They're in Amarillo. They are trying to get him into some OT and speech therapy outside of school. I'm just waiting on a doctor referral, which I had handled that last week. So I'm just waiting on a phone call back. Yesterday was Labor Day, so I couldn't call to make sure that the referral was made by his primary care doctor. As far as his behavioral, I have done my research. As far as this area and the superior health that he does have, I wasn't finding anything that takes his insurance. So my goal towards the end of this, and if this could be closed, I'd like to relocate to Lubbock because they have a lot of resources for autism. I've found 5 locations just in that vicinity that could help him with his behavioral, his speech, his occupational therapy, and they'll take care of him from the time he's in kindergarten until the time he graduates high school. So I really have my son's best interest in mind when it comes to his development and his upbringing.
Okay. All right. So let me think before I interrupted everybody. Where were we?
Ms. Zavala had just passed.
You had just finished. All right. So Mr. Trout, do you have any other questions for Ms. Corbett?
Just a couple real quick ones. And you kind of covered most of this, Your Honor. Ms. Corbett, you mentioned a few times, I know we just got there talking about a lot of the behavioral and programs and stuff. Have you talked to the school yet as far as what they can help provide? Have you crossed that bridge yet?
Not since he's been in school. I talked to him before school had started and they told me, some speech and occupation.
Okay.
But I mean, I didn't talk about the behaviors because that still was kind of new. So
okay. Has the school talked to you about any behaviors that have happened at school?
No.
Okay. So you don't know whether they have looked into any programs yet either?
No.
Now, Mr. Hill asked earlier about if we were dismissed from the case today or an order was put in today and we were out of the case. As far as visitations, what type of visitations is Mr. Chambers having right now?
He gets virtual twice a week. I know he's supposed to get the 4 hours, but with Remy being autistic, kind of just let it go until Remy's not comfortable anymore. So.
Okay. At this point, are these still supervised or are they unsupervised? How are these done?
Well, when we started since the last court hearing, we had 2 that were unsupervised, and I ended up having someone supervise the virtual.
Okay. Is that more due to watching for Remington when he has had enough or can't sit there anymore?
Well, some was Mr. Chambers was having some concerns because during the last unmonitored one, Remy threw up.
Okay.
So just didn't want anything, to happen and nobody be there to be witness it or,
Okay. I'll pass it, Sean.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions for Ms. Corbett?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Certainly.
Thank you. Ms. Corbett, as far as treatment and opportunities in therapy offered through school, is the department's participation necessary for any of those services through the school?
No, it's not necessary. I just thought she could probably use some more assistance.
And you did testify earlier about Ms. Hanson needing a little bit more financial help, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that child support would also be able to provide that financial help?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Yep, Mr. Hill.
No further questions, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Zavala.
Just a quick follow-up question on the, it looked like at the time of the report, drug tests were pending. Were there any concerns regarding drug tests of either parent?
So Richard was sent for a hair and it came back that it was canceled. Something happened to the sill. I'm not sure if that happened when it was getting shipped to the lab or what. So, not due to Mr. Chambers' fault by any means. Alyssa's came back positive for codeine and morphine. She did provide her prescription medication for those to verify that. She was in a car accident and went to the hospital and had a concussion.
So no concerns. It was normal that would show
Yeah.
up that way.
Yes.
Okay. After the car accident, does she still have transportation?
Yes. It looks to be cosmetic. I believe she has filed a claim, so.
I pass witness.
All right, anything further, Ms. Corbett?
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Trout. You have any additional witnesses to call today?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd go ahead and call Ms. Hanson.
All right. Ms. Hanson, you've been sworn, so you may proceed.
Ms. Hanson, a few quick questions. When Remington was placed back with you, did you notice the increase in behaviors also?
Yes, and I do keep an open communication with Jane Edwards, which was his foster parent, and she said that the behaviors were not unknown to her, so they have happened in foster care. I asked her, is there anything that I should look for as far as tics or things that I might be doing that might be causing the behavior, and she said he just has good and bad days. As far as at school, he hasn't been doing any self-harming or harming of others. He hasn't banged his head at school. I keep an open communication with his teacher every day through an app called Seesaw. And I think it really is just routine. So it's understandable with him coming back to the home that we both were just trying to get used to each other again. So, so now I know what I can be doing. So basically in those situations where he is either harming me or he harms me mostly. So when it comes to those situations like that, I kind of just get on his level, look him right in the eye and say, mommy doesn't like to be hit. Hitting is bad, obviously. And I just give him a lot of love. So I hug him, I kiss him, and he seems to have been really adapting to the fact that, that's not an okay behavior, but I'm not like trying to make it sound like he's a bad boy. It's just even I don't know why he does that. So I think we're on we're trying to understand why, but we're also it's manageable. So yesterday it was Labor Day and I'm assuming he was just, why am I not in school kind of thing. And so he did a lot of physical stuff with me, but I kind of expected that. So I tried to mimic his school day routine by having his nap time around the same time school would and lunch around the same time as school would, and just try to recreate that kind of school routine at home, even though there wasn't school yesterday. And so it's kind of just a learning process for me, but I do a lot of research on my own time. I read a lot of articles. I learned when children do those kinds of things, especially autistic children, you just don't react. You don't make them feel like, they're a bad child. You just kind of redirect them, and it's redirect. And so I think the behavior is getting a lot better as far as school and him not doing those things at school. I really think it is because of a routine. And so there's no tolerance for that kind of behavior. Whereas at home, because I haven't had him for a year, I've been kind of lenient and been like, I want you to be, a free little boy here at home. This is your home. And I'm trying to readapt him into the home with not necessarily, trying to make it, I'm trying to make it as comfortable as possible for him. So I think we're at a point now where it's we're both understanding each other's routines. So I go to work and he goes to school and we do our thing on the weekend. And so, like I said, it's mostly just time is what I think is healing a lot of the behavioral issues. And as far as my research on ABA therapy, I think it's great. And I think that I can accomplish that on my own as far as finding somebody that could help us with that. And I do keep myself very educated about my son's autism.
Okay. Now, as far as financial situation, are you working part-time or full-time?
I was working part-time and I'm moving up to full-time. I was taking some time off because my SNAP and TANF application was denied a few times due to filing errors on their end. And so this last application, the only problem is they're backlogged. So I call almost every day and I check to make sure that there isn't any documentation that I'm missing. If there's anything that I could be doing on my end to make that process move along faster. And as far as I know, they've escalated my case twice. And so the last thing I heard was that they're just behind. And that's understandable. I do have a lot of financial help through family. My mom and dad are on disability, but they've never let me go without. As far as it was just shaky in the beginning because, you know, like I said, I went 3 weeks without a paycheck, not knowing that my new job would hold me back a paycheck. And the rental assistance was very helpful, especially because I got in a car accident last month and, you know, had to take a week off. So that came in very handy. But I think I'm stabilizing now. And I've actually was talking to my boss and he was thinking about giving me $1 pay raise. So I'll be making $15 an hour at my new job soon.
A while ago, you mentioned eventually possibly moving to Lubbock.
Yes.
Is this a job that would transfer down there, or would you be back in a situation of missing paychecks and looking for a new job?
No, there's a Bronx there. And my manager is very fond of my work ethic. And he said that he would put in a recommendation for me if I'd like to transfer over there.
How many hours are you working right? I know you said you just swapped over to full time. So are you at 30 to 40? Where are you on hours you work?
35.
You work 35? Okay. You said it'd be end of October before you got
health benefits.
Apply for insurance.
Yes.
All right. Now it was brought up you had possibly put in for child support. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That was probably about around the time Remy came home.
Okay. Were you aware that that could be ordered through this case?
I was not aware, no.
Okay. Is that just sitting out pending? Have you heard back anything on that?
I did get a letter stating that they did open a case, but because I didn't have a lot of information on Richard and where he works and where he lives, I wasn't able to provide the information that might have made that process go by faster. Okay. So they have given me a case number. I haven't checked on it recently only because I've been so busy with my other, financial applications. My SSID appointment is October 3rd at 1:00 p.m. And all they're requesting in their letter is that I have a bank account number that they can transfer funds into. Okay. So I believe I've given them all of the medical records that they were requesting as far as Remy's disability on his autism. Okay.
Have you discussed with the school any about the behavioral therapy? Or
yes, I did speak with his teacher. She said that they don't provide that, but she does think that Remy will eventually, kind of mellow out. It's not only that he's autistic, but he is a 3-year-old, so he has high energy. He does have an upcoming meeting with a special education coordinator and his teacher and both parents about Remy and reevaluating his autism and his ARDs on September 4th at 1:30 p.m.
On September what?
14th.
14th. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Ontropolis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hanson, as far as your housing is concerned, has Mr. Corbett been to your house?
Yes, we do weekly visits. To my understanding, I will be switching caseworkers, so she will be passing on my case to another caseworker, which I do like Erica. I have met her before, but I just feel like with the fact that I've completed my parenting plan and Remy is where he needs to be as far as school, and I'm educating myself enough on his autism that I just don't want to reacquaint myself with somebody new after it being open for so long. And right. So that's just like where I'm at as far as my comfortability with elongating this case.
Now, you heard some testimony about some issues regarding an AC unit. Have y'all been able to resolve that issue?
Last time I've talked to, so my landlord, he works as a postman 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So he's only able to come out on the weekends. And from what it sounds like, the little fixes that he's done, so he's tried to replace a few items on the cooling unit itself. And it's come down to the point where he thinks he's going to have to replace the entire unit. And so I don't know if that's something like they're not able to afford it, but they have made me comfortable with a window unit. So we keep open correspondence about it, though. He does come over and ask me, how's it feel in the house? And so they're very communicating as far as knowing that my AC unit is broken. It's just it's a bigger fix than we thought it was going to be.
And have you and Remy had any problems with the air conditioning with the window unit?
No, I know that's the last concern that I heard from my caseworker was that there were fans going, but Remy's a good boy. I mean, I have them and I have the knobs taken off so he cannot touch the controls. I have them in places where, he knows that they're there, but he doesn't do anything like sticking, he sticks Fruit Loops in my bedroom one, but he likes to watch them turn into dust. So he doesn't stick his fingers in there and he knows what no means. So he's pretty good about it. It's just like with my animals, he knows they're there, but he has no interest. So with the circulation that I have from my room throughout the house with the fans, it stays pretty cool in here. And then I just, I turn it off at night when it gets colder and then I start it back up before I leave to work.
So it's fair to say that both you and Remy are comfortable in the home.
Oh yeah. I mean, I let him run around in his diaper quite a bit, but it's hot. So I think he's more comfortable that way.
And as far as your car is concerned, do you have reliable transportation to take Remy to school and take yourself to work and those things?
Yes, it was mostly cosmetic damage. So what ended up happening was the car was turning into a turning lane and hit the back end of my car. Randy was in school at the time, so just in case anybody was wondering, he was not in the car. I had his car seat assessed, and it was all well and fine. And it was mostly just the back door that was hit. My tire lost a chunk out of it, but I ended up just turning 180 degrees and smacked my head on the window, which was why I had the concussion and had to go to the hospital afterwards.
And do you think that having child support paid to you would help you out financially?
I believe I do, especially with my boss giving me the news that he wanted to give me $1 more an hour. I was very, very grateful for the fact that they're not only flexible with my work schedule as far as Remy and his schooling, but also that they like my work ethic enough that they want to keep me at $15 an hour.
And as far as like treatment plans for Remy, what are your treatment plans for him if CPS were out of the case today?
Like I said, I do have contact for Care Options for Kids, and they can offer OT and speech therapy with a doctor's referral recommendation, which I'm working on. And he does physical therapy through Turn Center, where he will be doing therapy with his legs because he tippy toes, and they will be fitting him for braces. I'm not quite sure when, because I was talking to his therapist, and it sounds like I'll have to go out of town to go and get them fitted for him. And he will be in those for about 6 months.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Zavala?
So if the department was out at this time, there wouldn't be anybody there to coordinate visitation with Dad, and Dad worked out what you would like to see happen with visits?
Yes, so far we do our scheduled visits with Whitney, but I just have been trying to let Richard read to Remy for about 15 to 20 minutes at nighttime, and that has been helping him go to sleep. But it's also a request through the school district that Remy reads at night, and I know that Richard's big on books and Remy is as well, so that's kind of like their bonding time where I feel like it's not forced and it's not like nothing's expected from it. It's just, he'll lay down and he'll either listen for the whole 20 minutes or he'll pass out in 5 minutes. So it's been pretty nice. I like to watch them bond like that, and I just kind of stay out of the way, and I'm just the camera lady at that point.
So you feel comfortable working through those visitation issues directly with him?
Yes, I feel like through time and through Richard's efforts that it just, I have an autistic child and I can't raise him by myself. And even if it's from afar, Richard is proving and really trying to be a good dad. And so, we all make mistakes, and I'm just wanting to move on from that now. And I think that's what's best for Remy. And Remy seems to enjoy the reading time, and he does enjoy his dad. And even yesterday or last night, we didn't talk with Dad, but he was saying dad, dad before he went to sleep. And so I like to see that in my son. I like to see that, he's recognizing that there's two of us and not just mommy, who might seem a little stressed out sometimes with juggling 5 different hats. But, if I can pass off one of my hats and it works out, that's great for me.
I pass one.
All right, Mr. Trout, any further questions for Ms. Hanson?
No further questions from Ms. Hanson.
All right, anybody else have any other questions they want to ask her?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Hanson, if CPS were out of the case today, are you asking that you and Mr. Chambers be joint managing conservators of Remy?
Yes.
And are you asking that you have the right to designate the primary residence of Remy?
Yes.
And are you also asking that Mr. Chambers be ordered to pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you also asking to continue the virtual visits for now, but ultimately do kind of a step-up visitation plan where Mr. Chambers would have standard visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Hill, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Zavala, anything?
No further questions.
All right. All right, Mr. Trout, anything else?
Nothing from this witness, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses?
I think we need to hear from Mr. Chambers as far as some information from him.
All right, Mr. Chambers, if you'll unmute your device, you've been sworn.
In 2019, you did sign a acknowledgement of paternity. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, as far as if the court orders us out and orders child support, do you work 2 different jobs? Is that correct?
So my other job was seasonal. It ended early this season, so about 3 weeks ago. I do have one part-time job, and I am actively seeking one. I do have a working interview today for a position. I've kind of struggled just because of the new stuff on my record as far as being a felon. But, I've humbled myself to where, the job I'm going to is a dishwashing job. and it's something. And I just want to get hours. I just want to make money. I just want to be able to help provide to my family. So I'm not above anything. So yeah, that's where I stand with that one currently.
Okay, and that was going to be one of my questions. So working full-time, the reason for you're not only working part-time is due to your record. You're having issues finding full-time jobs.
I think the problem is I moved out here a little over a year ago to a job that was seasonal, that paid well. And just kind of that ended last summer. And I went to another seasonal job that was at a mountain resort. That was, again, just seasonal. And so I've kind of just been bouncing back and forth as far as those two seasonal jobs. And the place I'm at now, it's a brewery. I'm kind of low man on the tiers. So I'm just kind of, getting the hours that I can and trying to work my way up, learning more about the business as far as the production. And so just my position's not offering a whole lot. And now it's getting towards the end of summer where it's starting to slow down a little bit. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm loyal to this job, and if they had more to offer, I would take it. But as for now, it's just, there's not a whole lot more hours, and I'm on the verge of losing some. So that's why I'm going to, work part-time elsewhere as well. But I mean, as far as like long-term, I've been kind of a career food and beverage industry person. I've been a bartender server for over 20 years. Even working not full-time, it's definitely paid the bills, especially out here in Oregon.
Yeah.
Minimum wage plus tips really does add up. So
okay. If as far as finances, if child support was ordered, what would you be able to do monthly if it's ordered on a monthly basis?
So what I have to factor into this is so like right now at my job, my checks probably average $800 to $900. About $300 come out of those. That's a month, or twice a week, or bi-weekly, sorry. Each one of those paychecks, I get about $160 taken out for child support for my daughters here. And then with Oregon's taxes and stuff, I typically bring home a little under $500, about $475 each paycheck bi-weekly. It'll definitely help once I do get more work. And so, I mean, initially, I ended up sending Allie a little over $800 that first month because I knew that she was in between checks. And I basically drained my savings to help her kind of try to help to get ahead as much as I could. But I send her average now. I mean, I've been trying to send her at least like 125, 150 out of each paycheck. So, I guess up to 300 or, comfortably about 250. I don't want to make any excuses. Unfortunately, the spot that I live, it's very hard. Rent here is pretty outrageous. I've been lucky enough to find a room in a house and, rent that at a reasonable price. But yeah, like I said, no excuses. I make do with what I got. And, I have no problem working harder to help provide for my son and provide to Allie.
How many other children do you have, Mr. Chambers?
I have 2 teenage daughters that are here in Oregon.
All right. And are they in the same household?
No, they're about 3 hours away from me. So.
Well, no. I don't mean in your household.
They live with their mom.
Do they have the same mother?
They have the same mother. Or yes, it's 2. Yes, they have the same mother.
Okay. All right.
So I know you said a lot of information out there. So right now, your take home is about $900 to $1,000 a month.
I'd say closer to 8 or 9 take home. Yeah. I was just looking at it. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, my last checks, just because my last one, I knew that, I basically did all I could to get some extra hours from my employer while they existed. So my last take-home check was $500. Before that, it was the week before, 2 weeks before that, $434. The week before that, 2 weeks before that, it was $445. 2 weeks before that, $489. So, I mean, if we're averaging that out, that's what I'm looking at right now, but that doesn't include what I'm probably about to get.
Okay.
I guess.
And so I'm just trying to figure out exactly how tight money is on as far as when we start figuring out if we put out in the court orders child support, what we're looking at on that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I live pretty minimally other than paying my necessary bills, insurance, rent, Any kind of fines from the past stuff. I mean, I try to help Ali and Remy as much as possible. I mean, besides the set $125 I send her every paycheck, in the most recent, I help out as much as possible as far as if she needs gas money. I've helped pay bills and, just kind of help wherever I can with that, which isn't too much. I mean, she's pretty much on top of a lot of stuff, but I mean, some people just struggle. And right now I think we both are doing our best to keep up and move forward.
All right. I'll pass witness, Sharon.
Okay, Ms. Morocco?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Chambers, is the minimum wage in Oregon about $14.20 an hour?
That sounds pretty accurate.
I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Chambers, that money that you talked about that you sent Allie a while back, the $800 and then the second payment, you said that first month. What months are you referring to? Roughly.
So I believe when I added that up, because I needed to send it to Stephanie, it was from late June through or up to the current date in July, whenever that was. And it was approximately $875. And it wasn't just me sending her cash. It was me. I helped pay a phone bill. I helped pay a water bill, just paying various stuff. But it was, that's what it added up to. And then since that in late July, I've sent her pretty consistently from each paycheck about $125.
So I think I understood you also that you're looking for employment currently. Is that right? Or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm with this brewery. I've been with them for almost a year and, well, I guess closer to 8 months. And so I'm pretty committed to them. If they have something open, as far as anything that's going to have more hours or better pay, I know that I'm probably one of the first on the list, but in the meantime, like I said, I went out and applied for a few jobs and I mean, I couldn't even get calls back. And I think I have a pretty good resume and I interview well. I just think that maybe possibly it's something to do with my record as to why I'm not getting callbacks on those. And so that's why I was like, well, I need to work. And I applied for a dishwashing job and I literally have an open, he said, I went and had an interview and he said he wants me to come in for a working interview. So it sounds like they're going to get some hours out of me and to let me know from there. But I'm very confident. I have over 20 years in the food and beverage business. So I think they'll be able to see that they can use me as a multi-tool, starting with the dishwasher.
Okay.
I'm not sure about hours yet. I'm hoping today they'll kind of fill me in more on that as far as how many hours it'll be. I mean, I have an idea what the pay is going to be.
And what is that, do you think?
So $17 is what it starts off as. And then he says you get $1 an hour tips. So, I mean, I think that's going to end up, if I'm working part-time, there may be an extra $50 on my check. But something's better than nothing. I'll take it.
Sure. Okay. And you heard what Allie requested regarding joint managing conservatorship and how she wanted the court to rule on parental rights. Did you understand what she was saying?
It sounds like co-parenting with Remy's primary residence with her.
Basically. And are you okay with her request to the court?
Absolutely. I mean, he's there with her. He loves his mama a lot. And, he loves me a lot through the computer screen. And I'm very happy with the decision. I want him home with his mama and, I see them building a wonderful relationship. And, she talks about him being combative. And it's funny because she'll call me sometimes and be like, okay, tell daddy what you're doing. And he just has this little mischievous smile. And, I kind of feel like he listens, whether or not he clearly understands. I think he's starting to. So, I'm glad that we had that great communication and can work together.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Zavala, any questions?
I think what I was going to ask has already been covered. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
So does the department rest?
Department would rest. We'd like the opportunity at the end when everybody's done to make a statement.
Okay, let me just tell you guys what I'm going to do today. And we're going to recess this today. And I know I'll explain why. So obviously, Ms. Naranjo, Mr. Hill, you guys are both will have an opportunity to call witnesses, present whatever you need to present. But I want to recess and I'm going to suggest that we resume this. I want to give you all enough time. What I really want to do is I would like for certainly Mr. Hill and his client and Ms. Hanson and Ms. Naranjo and her client. I would like to see if they could hammer out a visitation agreement. I can order a standard kind of step-up thing, but I think everybody knows that doesn't work in this situation. These people are a long ways apart geographically. I don't know what Mr. Chambers' ability to come here for a lot of, for very many in-person visits are going to be. The child has special needs. It sounds to me like the parents are working very, very well together. I'd love to just say visitation as they agree, but we all know sometimes that breaks down and, then that's problematic. But what I'd really like to do is see if you all can't just kind of have an informal settlement conference and try to hammer out a visitation schedule. Because, the parents know better than anybody about what may or may not work for this little boy. You've got some flexibility until he's in mandatory school, but once he's in mandatory school age, we got to work around that. And, I think in consideration of what Mr. Chambers' financial situation is going to be, I will just tell you that based on what I've heard, I'm inclined to set his child support at $260 a month, but I welcome your all's discussion of that and see if you can agree to something. Again, if he's going to come here to visit, there's expense involved in that. If Miss Hanson's going to go there and take the child with her to visit, there's expense there. So, I don't have a set of paycheck stubs to look at. I've obviously heard the testimony and I'm telling you what I would be inclined to order sitting here today. But I personally think it would be way more beneficial for all of you to just try to hammer through some of those issues. I want to reset a date pretty quickly. I haven't heard from, I know Mr. Hill, Mr. Naranjo haven't called their client. But what I've heard from parents' testimony, I think they are probably as on top of this as they're going to get. And I just not sure that we need to be involved any longer. So the timetable on you all getting this done kind of dictates how fast we're going to get out of your lives. But I really would like parents to try to work something out in the way of a visitation schedule. I think it's patently unfair just to stick a boilerplate order out there on you guys. And if you can't come to some agreement, I'm happy to do something. But I will just tell you, probably neither of you are going to like it very well, just because I just don't think it's going to be terribly workable in this situation. So, Ms. Naranjo, Mr. Hill, any objection to you all seeing what you can hammer out, and then you can run it past Ms. Zavala and run it past Mr. Trout, see if they've got any problem with it. But
No, ma'am.
you guys are the ones that got to live. You guys are the ones that got to live with it. Not me, not them. So, and I know that sounds like I'm kicking the can back at you guys, but and I am to a certain degree, but it's just because I really feel like what you guys come up with is going to be a lot more livable for you than what probably that I'm going to do. Because sitting here, I don't have any information on how often Mr. Chambers could come to Texas or how often Miss Hanson could go to Oregon or, so anything that I would do would be very arbitrary at this point. Do you all think you can hammer something out or at least attempt to in the next couple of weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
I would sure think so, Judge.
I think so, Judge.
Okay.
I believe so. Absolutely.
I don't want to, I don't want us to be involved and keep dragging this out any longer than what we have to, but I want to give you enough time because, your attorneys are busy people. You guys are busy. if we just reset this for 1 o'clock on September 19th, would that work for everybody? Knowing that probably it's not going to take real long.
Works for me.
I can do that, Judge.
I can do that, Judge.
I can do that, Judge.
Okay, so I've not made any ruling. I've told you all kind of what my thoughts are, but it isn't a ruling yet. Court welcomes your, your agreements, obviously, but I am telling you all that I think the parents have done what we've needed them to do. So, guess that doesn't mean I can't change my opinion about that if we get back together and I hear something else. But so not entering any kind of final ruling about it. But so we will just be in recess. Let you all try to talk about some of those issues, and then we'll regroup at 1 o'clock on the 19th to wrap up whatever we need to wrap up.
And Judge, real quick on something that came up, I know Mr. Chambers mentioned about Indian tribes.
Yes.
We did send a letter back last May. I don't see that we've ever gotten a response from them, but we did send off letters to that Cherry Connection on that. We just never heard back.
Well, it doesn't appear that it's going to end up being an issue.
That's fine.
I just kind of want to make sure we dotted that I.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. All right. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everything you all have outlined for me today. And I just think that if y'all can come up with something, it's a better resolution for you guys. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. I can come up with some kind of order. All right, then I'll see everybody back on the 19th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, y'all. And
Thank you, Your
thanks to
Honor.
parents. Thank you to the parents for your hard work.